The city of Rome, a sprawling maze of stone and ambition, echoed with footsteps and whispers of power. The Republic, a fragile balance of old traditions and new ambitions, stood at the edge of transformation. In this restless city, a boy was born, Gaius Julius Caesar. Born in 100 BCE to the patrician Julian family, Julius was heir to a legacy that claimed descent from Aeneas, son of Venus and a prince of Troy. Though noble by blood, the Julii were not among Rome's most powerful clans. The Republic was rife with conflict, corruption, and civil unrest. A world where cunning and courage determined survival. From a young age, Caesar showed a restless spirit. He witnessed Rome's brutal civil wars, including the rise of Lucius, Cornelius Sulla, the dictator who unleashed terror on his enemies. Caesar's refusal to divorce his wife Cornelia, despite Sulla's orders, marked his first act of defiance. He was forced to flee Rome briefly, but his resolve only hardened. Caesar's rise was neither quick nor guaranteed. He served as a military officer in Asia Minor, where his bravery earned him the civic crown for saving a comrade. Back in Rome, his political career began with the traditional offices quaestor, aedile, and praetor. But Caesar's vision extended beyond these roles. He knew power required more than titles. It demanded loyalty, spectacle, and wealth. To fund grand public games and gain popular favor, Caesar borrowed heavily, risking ruin. His charisma won over Rome's masses. His speeches echoed in the forum, and alliances formed in smoke-filled rooms. The Senate, dominated by conservative patricians, saw Caesar as a threat. But Caesar was shrewd. He forged a secret alliance with two powerful men, Marcus Licinius, Crassus, Rome's richest man, and Pompey, Rome's most celebrated general. This informal coalition, known as the First Triumvirate, controlled Rome's political machinery for years, yet it was fragile, built on ambition and mistrust. In 58 BCE, Caesar was appointed governor of Cisalpine Gaul and Illyricum, vast territories beyond Rome's heart. What followed was an epic campaign that would define his legacy for nearly a decade. Caesar led legions deep into the lands of the Gauls, fierce Celtic tribes unknown to many Romans. His wars were ruthless and relentless. He defeated the Helvetii, tribe attempting to migrate through Roman territory. He crossed the Rhine, a feat many thought impossible, striking fear into Germanic tribes. And in 52 BCE, he crushed the great Gallic chieftain Vercingetorix at Alesia, ending organized resistance. Caesar's Commentarie de Bello Gallico immortalized these campaigns, not as dry reports, but gripping narratives of war and conquest, designed to captivate the Roman public and Senate alike. Yet Caesar's victories came at a terrible cost. Over 1 million Gauls were killed or enslaved, entire villages razed. The Roman legions stretched thin, and his absence from Rome fueled political intrigue. The Senate, wary of his growing power, demanded Caesar disband his army and return to Rome. As a private citizen, a dangerous order that would decide the fate of the Republic. The Rubicon River, a narrow, shallow boundary in northern Italy, awaited Caesar's choice. To cross meant war. To hesitate meant ruin. January 49 BCE. The winter air hangs cold over the Rubicon River, the fragile border between Gaul and Italy. A single, monumental decision will shatter the Republic forever. Julius Caesar, with 13 legions behind him, stands on the brink of civil war. The die is cast. Caesar reportedly declared. With these words, he crossed the Rubicon. A small river, but a massive symbol. No general had entered Italy with an army since the Republic's founding. To do so was an act of treason, a declaration of war against the Senate and Pompey, who controlled Rome. Pompey, once Caesar's ally in the first triumvirate, now aligned with the Senate's conservatives, fled Rome. Caesar moved swiftly, his legions sweeping through Italy with little resistance. The city, gripped by fear and uncertainty, awaited its fate. The conflict tore Rome apart. Caesar pursued Pompey across the Adriatic, through Greece, and into the heart of the eastern Mediterranean. The defining battle came at Pharsalus in 48 BCE. Desperate gamble. Outnumbered, Caesar's tactical genius triumphed. Pompey's forces were routed, his supporters scattered. Pompey fled to Egypt, seeking refuge only to be betrayed and murdered, his severed head sent as a grim gift to Caesar. Returning to Rome, Caesar was named dictator, first briefly, then for 10 years. His reforms swept through the Republic, reorganizing the calendar into the Julian calendar. A system so precise it remains the foundation of today's timekeeping, granting Roman citizenship to far-reaching provinces, reforming the Senate, increasing its size with loyalists, initiating public works, roads, forums, and grain laws to stabilize the city. Yet, behind the reforms, many whispered of tyranny. The old Republic, with its fragile system of checks and balances, was fading. Caesar's unprecedented concentration of power alarmed senators, especially those who saw their own influence slipping away. The date was March 15, 44 BCE, the Ides of March. In the Senate chamber, shadows thickened. A group of senators, calling themselves liberators, hatched a deadly conspiracy. Brutus, once a close ally and rumored illegitimate son, stood among them. Cassius, his co-conspirator, orchestrated the plan. At the climax of a Senate meeting, the knives flashed. Caesar was stabbed 23 times. His death did not restore the Republic as the conspirators hoped. Instead, it unleashed chaos. Rome erupted into civil wars more brutal than before. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, and Octavian, his adopted heir, emerged as central players. The young Octavian, later Augustus, was barely 18 but driven by destiny and ambition. The Republic was dying, and a new era was dawning. The corpse of Julius Caesar lay cold on the Senate floor, but his legacy burned fiercely. In his death, Rome began the painful transformation from republic to empire, and from the ashes, a new name would rise: Augustus Caesar. Rome stood stunned. The great Julius Caesar was gone, struck down not on a battlefield, but beneath marble arches and painted ceilings. And in the silence that followed, Rome turned toward a name few expected, a boy of just 18 years, Gaius Octavius, the adopted son, the named heir, the future Augustus. Octavius had been away, studying in Illyricum when Caesar was assassinated. Upon hearing the news, he sailed to Italy not in fear, but in preparation. He quietly claimed his inheritance and the title Gaius Julius Caesar Octavian S. Few took him seriously. He was young, untested, and frail in appearance. But what he lacked in muscle, he more than made up for in patience, calculation, and ruthless resolve. Rome teetered on the edge of collapse. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, seized control of Caesar's papers, treasury, and legions. But Octavian had the name, the legacy, and most importantly, the support of Caesar's veterans. Tensions escalated. Antony and Octavian clashed politically and militarily. But in a twist of fate and political necessity, they joined forces, along with Marcus Lepidus, forming the Second Triumvirate in 43 BCE. This alliance was legalized by the Senate and granted extraordinary powers. Their first move was swift and brutal. A purge. Enemies of Caesar were hunted and killed. Most famously, Cicero, the orator who once stood for liberty. Now silenced by Antony's sword, the triumvirs turned their fury eastward. In 42 BCE, at the Battle of Philippi in Macedonia, they faced the forces of Brutus and Cassius, Caesar's assassins. It was a colossal clash. Antony emerged as the stronger general, while Octavian's forces held the line. Brutus and Cassius fell. Upon their swords, their republican dream dying with them. The world they fought to save no longer existed. The Republic was now a ghost walking in Caesar's shadow. After Philippi, the triumvirs divided Rome's territories. Antony took the east. Octavian controlled the west. Lepidus received Africa but soon faded into irrelevance. Antony, now ruling from Egypt, fell under the spell of Cleopatra VII, Queen of the Nile. Their alliance, political and romantic, shocked Roman sensibilities. Together, they lived in opulence, raised children, and declared Caesarion Cleopatra's son by Julius Caesar as a potential heir to Rome. This was too much for Octavian. Back in Rome, he launched a masterful propaganda campaign. Antony had become un-Roman, bewitched by the East. Rome would not be ruled by a foreign queen. In 32 BCE, civil war erupted once again. Octavian declared war not on Antony, but on Cleopatra. A cunning move that framed the conflict as a defense of Roman tradition. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Octavian's fleet, under the command of Marcus Agrippa, trapped and decimated Antony and Cleopatra's ships off the coast of Greece. The lovers fled to Egypt, where, in 30 BCE, facing defeat and capture, they chose suicide. Antony fell on his sword. Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, ended her life, legend says, by the bite of an asp. Rome was no longer divided. There were no more triumvirs. There were no more enemies. Only Octavian remained. In 27 BCE, Octavian formally returned power to the Senate in a theatrical gesture. The Senate, in turn, gave him new titles: Princeps, First Citizen, Augustus, the Revered One. It was a new beginning, but the truth was clear. The Republic was over. The Roman Empire had begun. Augustus would rule for over 40 years, ushering in the Pax Romana, an era of relative peace, prosperity, and stability unlike anything Rome had ever known. One man's murder gave rise to another's throne. Julius Caesar built the bridge, but Augustus crossed it. Together, they reshaped the world, not by accident, but by will. Not by tradition, but by transformation. This was no longer the Rome of the Senate and the people. This was an empire forged in blood and crowned in laurel. Rome did not fall into empire with a scream. It slid into it with applause. The Senate gave Augustus's power, and the people gave him their trust. But beneath the robes, the speeches, the golden statues, lurked a truth. Rome now bowed to a single man. Augustus did not call himself king. He learned from Caesar's fate. He styled himself princeps first citizen, but in practice, he was emperor in all but name. He held tribunician powers for life. He commanded the armies. He controlled the treasury. He decided who governed the provinces. And in exchange, he gave Rome what it needed most: stability. The Republic had been chaos. Civil war, assassinations, corruption. Now, under Augustus, roads were built, borders were secured, temples restored. The Pax Romana had begun 2 centuries of relative peace, reaching from Britannia to Judea, from the Atlantic to the sands of Arabia. Augustus once said, I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble. He rebuilt the city's infrastructure, drained swamps, and expanded aqueducts. He reformed the tax system and created a standing army and navy. He even formed the Praetorian Guard, an elite unit tasked with protecting the emperor himself. Though in centuries to come, this guard would become both shield and dagger. But not even emperors could conquer time. Augustus's personal life was marked by tragedy and disappointment. His only daughter, Julia, was exiled for scandal. His chosen heirs, Marcellus Agrippa, Gaius, Lucius Saul, died young. At last, he settled on Tiberius, his stepson by marriage to Livia. It was a cold choice. Tiberius lacked charisma, but he had discipline. When Augustus died in 14 CE, he passed power not to a republic but to a dynasty. Rome's first emperor was dead. Its imperial system was not. And what of Julius Caesar, the man whose assassination triggered it all? His name never faded. Augustus kept it alive in coins, in temples. In stories, Caesar became a god. Literally, in 42 BCE, the Senate declared him Divus Julius, the divine Julius. Augustus was then not just Caesar's heir, he was the son of a god. Future emperors would bear the name Caesar, not as a surname, but as a title, an echo of power, an echo of fear. Even centuries later, rulers would call themselves Kaiser, Tsar, variations of that same name. Julius Caesar had reshaped the Republic. Augustus had buried it and built something stronger. The world changed because of these 2 men. One died with 23 stab wounds in the heart of a collapsing republic. The other died peacefully in his bed, having forged the longest-lasting empire Europe had ever known. Their legacies would intertwine. Julius, the lightning strike. Augustus, the steady flame. Without the ambition of Caesar, there would be no Augustus. And without Augustus's cunning, Caesar's dream would have turned to dust. Together, they turned a city into an empire, a name into a crown, and a fleeting republic into the eternal memory of Rome. This was the age of blood and laurel, where swords carved destiny and ambition built empires. From the Ides of March to the marble throne, Rome was never the same again. Not after Caesar, not after Augustus, not after empire,